Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Gün boyu ziyaretçi akınına uğrayan Ayasofya Kebir Camii Şerifi için kundakçının zamanlaması da dikkat çekiciydi. Yatsı namazından sonra içeri girdi. Tarihi camiden el ayağın çekilmesini bekledi. Ardından hain planını uygulamaya koydu. Sütunun dibine büyümesini umduğu o ateşi yaktı.
这个就是我们刚完成的一个小虫子，先根据自己的设想把手稿画出来，再把它的模型建出来。最近有朋友推荐了佳立创 3D 打印平台，能打印树脂、金属、尼龙、塑料，每个月还能免费打样。看了看他们电子和机械类业务还挺全，这样锻炼下去，我手搓水平得大幅提升了。打印件很快就收到了，这个打印的效果精度还是很高的。接下来就是开始组装了。
Teeth, though, are in those investments? What kind of teeth are in those investments, meaning that would force the EU to make those investments? If they don't make those investments, what happens on the other side?
Well, then they pay tariffs of 35%. No, they brought down their tariffs. So they paid $600 billion, and because of that, I reduced their tariffs from 30% down to 15%. And a couple of countries came, how come EU is paying less than us? And I said, well, because they gave me $600 billion. And that's a gift. That's not like, a loan, by the way. That's not a loan that, 3 years comes up, we have to pay it back. There's nothing to pay back. They gave us $600 billion that we can invest in anything we want.
The deal that you're
and nobody knows it, Becky. Nobody knows it because they don't know.
No, we have been trying to figure out the details on that, Mr. President. So
well,
we
there are no
appreciate the
details.
clarity on
the
that.
details are $600 billion to invest in anything I want, anything.
Okay.
I can do anything I want with it. And the purpose was they've been, ripping us for so many years that it's time that they pay up, and they have to pay up. We couldn't afford to have the deficits. Look, I did something with Switzerland the other day. I spoke to their prime minister. The woman was nice, but she didn't want to listen. And they paid essentially no tariffs. And I said, we have a $41 billion deficit with you, madam. I didn't know her. I said, we have a $41 billion deficit, and you want to pay 1% tariffs. You wanted 1%. I said, you're not going to pay 1%. We lose, because I view deficit as loss. You know, you have some people, by the way, I think
pharmaceuticals are a big issue with Switzerland. I think.
Well, I'll go into pharmaceuticals. Yeah. They make a fortune with pharmaceuticals, and they make our pharmaceuticals in China and Ireland and everything else. And within the next week or so, we're going to be announcing tariffs on specifically. This is this is a separate class than the 15% tariffs on sort of everything. These are excluded classes, I call them. I like to call them excluded, like steel, aluminum, etc.
Right, the
well,
232.
We're going to be announcing on semiconductors and chips, which is a separate category, because we want them made in the United States. And by the way, they're being made in the United States.
Comparing the numbers from June to May, we did see the trade deficit shrink about 16% down to $60 billion from the month prior. So we've seen those trade numbers continue to go down as they have tried to see the trade field level between multiple other countries. We're still waiting for the official White House reaction to this trade data that came out about 15 minutes ago. We're also looking to see how the markets may react to it. But the trade deficit shrinking from June compared to the month of May, down 16%, down to $60 billion.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Glad to have you back, and we're glad to be back in the U.S. and back in the studio. We just got back from Armenia and Istanbul reporting on Christian persecution, and we had results. We were pressing hard for the Trump administration to do something about what's going on with the Christian population in Armenia. Since the genocide 100 years ago, they've been really attacked from all sides, the Muslims in Azerbaijan, Turkey, Iran to the south, and these people just need their voices heard. We hear all about other ethnic groups, but not these Christians in Armenia, which is the first Christian country, by the way. And we did a lot of reporting literally from the first Christian cathedral in Etchmidzian and other places, Kiroviap near Mount Ararat. And so a lot going on there. We're going to continue to get some of that content out as we are processing a lot here at CDM, but there's a meeting Friday, which we may be at the White House, because we got a call from someone close to the Trump administration that saw our reporting, and then they set up a meeting Friday with the leaders of Azerbaijan and Armenia. So we're proud to play our part in that, and we'll be reporting that in depth one way or the other on Friday. A lot going on. I want to say hello to the crew in the chat. You're cleared hot. Thanks for all the comments. Love the engagement. It's really growing, and we really appreciate it. Check out whatfinger.com. Make sure you check them out after CDM.press daily, and great aggregation site. We have a huge show today. Today's theme is revolution, and we're going to talk financial revolution and possible revolution in Ukraine, where the war needs to stop. Pete Blaber is going to join us in the second hour. And I've got the man himself, Rob Cunningham, who's going to talk about everything finance. Known Rob a long time, and I love his insight, and always has interesting takes on what's going on. You saw in the cold open, we literally just were at the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, the capital of the Eastern Byzantine Roman Empire, Second Holy Roman Empire. And it's really disgusting because you go in, it was a beautiful cathedral. All the Christian frescoes have been painted over, and it's a mosque. And they made it a mosque, or actually converted it into a mosque. It was a museum for years. They converted it into an active mosque only 5 years ago. That was kind of an FU by Erdogan in Turkey for the Muslim population. But somebody tried to light the mosque on fire this morning. So that was in the cold open. We're going to dig into that. We just saw that right before we opened. And drone warfare. You may not have noticed, but that helicopter flying over mountains of fiber optic cable across the battlefield in Ukraine, because all these drones are to avoid the EW warfare. They essentially use fiber optics, so they're self-controlled. And you saw that interesting Chinese drone that can fly swim, walk, do whatever it needs. I mean, drone technology is incoming, definitely. And we're going to get into all of this. I've got Rob coming up in the second hour, but I just wanted to highlight the reporting we've done in Ukraine and what's going on in Istanbul. And by the way, we'll be in Beirut on our continuing journey to highlight Christian persecution all around the world, which nobody's talking about. You know what? So we said, we're going to do it. And we're going to do it in country, on the ground, and bring you exactly what's happening, just like we did in Armenia and Istanbul. And you can see the timeliness of all this because Hagia Sophia it means his wisdom. It's where all the Eastern Roman Empire emperors were, coronated, just the capital. It's where Orthodox Christianity began, essentially coming out of Armenia into Istanbul and then up into Kiev and Russia, into Greece. And so a really important place in the world. We'll be right back. We've got a lot to talk about. We'll be back with Rob Cunningham, so stay with us till we get back. Thanks.
I'm a naturopathic doctor. We are in the world of medicine very acquainted with many modalities, but probably the one most familiar with everybody would be two things: homeopathy and herbs, maybe some nutrients too, vitamins, minerals, that kind of thing. Now, we do know a lot about the drugs because we have to find out what drug you're taking affects you and what nutrient it depletes you of, because most every drug pharmacy product will deplete something. So we have been trained and we have a database that we can check into that says this is going to take your B12 away. The pharmaceutical company cannot patent organic substances made by the body. You're not born short of Advil. You're not born short of Ritalin.
Yeah.
You can be born short of insulin, right? Mm-hmm. The answers to staying healthy and keeping away from even SARS or any of those things getting into you is staying healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You and I get sick because our terrain gets out of balance. Well, that's the same thing in the soil. You and I are made from this thing called dirt. And when we get out of balance, we have the same thing happen. Weeds start to grow in our body. Right? And that's what we want in our body. We want nutrients that we don't understand how to get well enough yet because our suppliers are lacking knowledge on nutrient density foods.
So this is what drove you to develop this, was your knowledge of this, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. You know that.
Excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, My Pillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Don't forget we're on podcast and on Gettr, on X, on YouTube, on Rumble. We're everywhere we can be that they don't kick us off, but you can catch us on podcast if you miss a show. I like to turn it up to 2 times the speed because I get through stuff a lot faster. It's just the way I roll. I want to bring in Rob Cunningham now, who is our finance guy, guru extraordinaire. Rob, I know you know a lot about a lot of things, but what do you think needs to come out right now? What do people need to know about that's happening in the world as we speak? Because I was talking about revolution. There's definitely a financial revolution happening, right?
Absolutely, Todd. And I would take it even a miles higher. But it's a revolution in finance, it's a revolution in faith, and it's a revolution in fundamentals. And what I mean by that is, we're seeing 70 and 80% growth rates in a brand new digital architecture, and money is power, and the love of money is the root of all evil. And if you can get rid of the evil hands that have all the power and return it back to we the people, that's pretty revolutionary, right?
Isn't that what's happening, Rob? Because I get a lot of people saying, well, that they're buying all the ETFs for, crypto and all, and BlackRock's going to control it and everything. I mean, tell us why the people are getting back their power.
Well, because there's 2 fundamental requirements, Todd. It's called transparency and accountability. 100% transparency and 100% accountability are required for algorithms like cryptocurrencies or digital ledger technology or stable coins or RLUSDs. For trade to happen in an open and honest, trustless manner between China and India, or India and Turkey, or Turkey and Saudi Arabia, or Saudi Arabia and America, it has to be based on trustlessness. Okay, so there are no Wizard of Oz behind the curtain secret deals. There's no ability to pervert and inflate and steal and extract and create secret ledgers when 55,000 NGOs get funded, and it takes Doge to come in and figure out where all this secret magic money is being spread all over the world and creating chaos. Okay, at the end of the day, the new digital architectures and the new transparency and the new accountability means everybody gets to see everything. Hands up. So 8 billion people outnumber, 1 million assholes.
Yeah.
Okay. 8 billion people are going to have AI too. 8 billion people can go in and query ChatGPT. We, the people, are the government. And if we, the people, have 100% transparency, and we can track and trace, and we can keep our betters under a watchful eye that we can see, we outnumber them, Todd.
Yeah, obviously that's correct. What about people or companies like Palantir? I mean, because there's a big scare now. They're growing. I mean, their revenue is through the roof. I think they're just the profitability is amazing from corporate and government work, and obviously they're getting a lot of dark government work. But how does what you're talking about, I guess, correlate with that entity itself?
Well, bottom line, Todd, it's going to have to all come down to law. Who has the law? What is law? Who can do what and who can't do what? Who can violate your unalienable rights and my unalienable rights? And who governs Palantir? That's the ultimate question. Are they right now rogue and doing whatever the damn hell they want to do? Are they being monitored by the Space Force and the Department of Defense and National Intelligence? Are they out there able to just make things up and do whatever they want to anybody because they're God in and unto themselves? Or is there maybe somebody else is there a plan? Is there more surveillance? Is there more intelligence? Have they been, did they used to be bad? Now they're, went from black hat to gray hat. Are they co-opted? Are they doing things that haven't been disclosed to us? I don't know. I'm not at the table. But to me, the way in which things are falling apart for the deep state and seemingly coming into better focus for we the people, it's either 10,000 coincidences or there's a plan in place, right? Yeah. And to have these rogue, Klaus Schwab's not doing whatever the hell he wants to do anymore. George Soros isn't doing whatever the hell he wants to do anymore. Jerome Powell is being let out to dry and hung out in the spotlight. So it's
fun to watch, isn't it?
It's fun to watch. So why would we think, oh, well, we caught some of them, but Palantir is doing just whatever the hell it wants to do?
Ah, that's a good point.
Doesn't make any sense.
So make people feel good about the CBDC stuff. There's so much coming at me. I haven't had the chance to dig into it. What do you think?
Make people feel good about it. What again? I'm sorry.
the CDBC? I mean, the new law is coming online.
Okay, well, it's an anti-CBDC surveillance act. Trump has always said he did an executive order, and they're going to codify the executive order into law. Todd, if we don't have central banks, you can't have a central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
If we have a treasury, you can have a treasury issued digital dollar, but you cannot have a Rothschild fractional reserve lending central bank digital currency weaponized against us with social credit scores and energy grids and CSG data points and locking us down like Canadian truckers.
Yeah.
Because now if you do that, you're violating the unalienable rights of a constitutional republic. You don't have law, you have a dictatorship. So the point of this whole exercise, Todd, is to get rid of the Rothschild Federal Reserve central banking empire that became the world reserve currency and let every nation take back control of their domestic budgets, money supply, spending, priorities, elections. Let everybody from the bottom up govern at the family level, the county level, the state level, and the national level, instead of this super imposition on the top down. We're just a bunch of sheep in a matrix. We'll shut up and live in 15-minute cities and eat bugs. That's what's coming down, Todd.
I hear you. So I guess there's a lot of people who are uninformed, skeptical. How do they thread that needle? The guy on the street. How do you ensure that to take advantage of what this revolution can bring you financially and freedom wise and all of that? Because I hate getting charged $40 if I overdraft, or I hate having my card declined at the dinner with a client because I used it 3 times this morning, so now the 4th time they shut it off. I mean, how do that's a great thing to get away from that, but how do we thread that needle so that people are take advantage of the good stuff but prevent some of the surveillance and control?
Well, it's a great question, Todd. And what you're asking is, we've been in this system since we were all born, trust in tradition and religion, and we just accept what we accept. And, it's hard to imagine a world that we've never lived in before, even though we've gone through the last 10 years of the greatest amount of chaos we've probably ever seen.
Yeah.
Right. And so why are we having this chaos? Who is rebelling against we the people? Whose head is spitting fire and neck turning around and green vomit coming out? Is it the people or is it the deep state? Is it the deep state trying to maintain its monopoly, and they'll kill and destroy and divide anybody or anything? They'll even blow the joint up if they need to, but by God, they want to keep their monopoly. So who are they trying to keep their monopoly from? Who's trying to overflip the money changers table?
Yeah.
In our era, in our lifetime right now, who is challenging the matrix? Well, there's a disrupting agent that's been hated 24/7, 365 since 2015. There's a force that's saying we are returning the power to we the people. And power is money. Money and power equal control. If the money system and the power and the energy is coming back to us as unalienable sovereign entities, well, then it doesn't get to be hoarded by the Rothschilds. We don't owe them $37 trillion. We don't have to pay. They don't get a lien on our life, our labor, our creativity, our patents, our family, our land, our gifting, our estate when we die. Anything that moves, the beast system taxes. That's not the way this nation was set up. So if we're undoing the trap that they've put us in, follow the money to understand why we have open borders and tornadoes out of nowhere and poisons being unleashed around the world and chaos and wokeism and wars and famine and trafficking all over hell's half acre. Why are the Democrats fleeing Texas and going to Illinois, and now they're under subpoena to be arrested because of dereliction of duty, and they're leaving people that need aid from the tornadoes where all those terrible deaths took place, and these folks don't want to vote on anything, so they leave the state?
Yeah,
I mean,
no, that's unacceptable, obviously.
it's
Yeah.
insane. But so the power shift is coming back to we the people, Todd, and I understand it's we've never experienced anything like this in our entire lives. So we're all having to figure out not where is the hockey puck today, but where's the hockey puck going?
Well, that's the question. And when you combine that with other concerns about like real ID and surveillance and, credit score and all that, I mean, that's what people are concerned about, that all of this will be connected at one point, right?
Todd, I want to show you real quick. I am reading through this 168-page document.
Mhm.
Okay. This includes all of the new taxonomy, the regulations, the requirements, the do's and the don'ts, what can happen with this new digital architecture, this monetary system that cuts out all the fat and the friction and the bloat and the banker fees and the regulatory grift and everything that takes place in this. I mean, think about it. The world's moving from a Blockbuster era to a Netflix era. We're going from things where you can move any amount of money around the world in 3 seconds, 24/7, 365 for less than a penny, instead of $100 or $1,000 or 7 days and for a private for-profit entity was making all of this money every time money moved, instead of now open source, publicly available software, sovereign digital rails where money moves around point to point, person to person for less than a penny all over the world. That's not going to make Jamie Dimon and the boys at JP Morgan very happy.
Well, that's a good point, because I was just in Armenia, and then the USAID office was next to where I was staying, but it was closed. I mean, it was gone. They said, yep, they closed up and left. And obviously some of it's moved to the State Department, to the embassy or whatever, but they took away the money, and you saw, just look at PBS, I mean, all of it just gone. I mean, people are out the door, their boxes of pictures from their desk. I mean, so that is a thing, right? I mean, so if you can cut off the money flow, so is the money flow, I mean, you're right. The JP Morgan is not going to want to stop that, right?
Well, think about it, Todd. First of all, it's funny money. It's not really it's a debt. It's an IOU. It's not really money. There's no accountability to how much of it they print. There's no accountability to how much they print and give to the CIA. There's no accountability of how much the CIA gives to 55,000 NGOs. And there's no accountability to where what those NGOs do with it to disrupt, divide, devour, destroy everything in our world, to keep the divide and conquer model needs us fighting each other, sick, weak, scared, so they can control us and they can own everything and have us live in a constant state of poverty, scarcity, fear, and sickness and war. What happens when that operational clarity that operational dysfunction ends with perfect clarity? How do they keep that magician trick going if we can see you can't just print money out of thin air? You can't do fractional reserve lending. You can't tax us at 50%. You can't create and generate wars because it's the best profit-making endeavor that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you fund NATO? How do you fund the WEF? How do you fund the United Nations? How do you fund all of these entities that are here to help us? But unless the world's in chaos, they're not maximizing the P&L for their shareholders. So we can't have peace. It's kind of like health. We can't have a bunch of healthy people because that's not profitable for the pharmaceutical industry. You can't have a bunch of peacetime all over the world because what's Raytheon going to do with that? Right? You can't have a bunch of peacetime because the bankers can't issue $17 trillion in new debt for 30 years and collect interest on it. Can't have that.
Well, Rob, you've been early on all of this, and you've been consistent, and you've been right so far on, a lot of the things you've talked about have come true. I guess people are questioning, well, is it all going to happen? And what I say is you just got to be involved on the ground locally, right? And you can't sit back and say, well, I hope this happens. You got to be part of making it happen. Am I right about that?
You're 1,000% correct, Todd. And that there's a perfect segue. Could you share my screen and pull this thing up? I just want to show people what I think is really critically important for all of us to know, because You know, we are in essence co-creators in a creative world, right? And so if we're co-create, I don't know if I can make this bigger so you can kind of see this.
Yeah, let me see if I can make that.
Make sure the audience can see it. There we go. Look, every single one of us want to be successful. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Success is 100% predictable. It's baked into our DNA. Failure is predictable too. But the bottom line, the end of the day, law is the single most powerful thing on earth. And we're designed to be successful. You know, it's good for the brand. It's good for the brand designer. It's good for the brand creator. Our success is good, you know, for why we're here in the first place. But here's the thing. If we don't know what the laws are, my people are destroyed for their lack of knowledge. If we don't understand what law is, and I'm not talking about the justice system law. I'm not talking about man's law. I'm not talking about the British accreditation registry and the things that man makes up and just imagines and puts on paper. That's not the law we're talking about here. The most important knowledge on earth is law. Who are we? Whose are we? What are those immutable, indestructible, timeless powers built into the DNA of this creation? Okay. If we know that, then, you know, laws are necessary in this design. Laws are necessary to our life. Law is the key to success. And we all have it in us, just like an acorn has an oak tree in it. It's already there. The acorn is there and the oak tree is there. It's the laws of water and sun and all that sort of things that make it happen. Our lack of knowledge is not God's fault. He isn't holding anything out on us. But you have to ask yourself, who are the profiteers for us to remain ignorant, sick, weak, and scared? Who benefits from us being dependent, lazy, entertaining ourselves to death, and unaware of what's happening behind the curtain with no transparency and no accountability? If we are destroyed by lack of knowledge, but once we get the knowledge, then we have to take action and be involved in everything. We have to be involved locally.
Well, we're getting some comments here. Let me,
sure.
Joe Reel says, I voiced the law and I was jailed. I think there's a lot of, you know, it's going to take courage, right? It's going to take a lot of people to get up and next man up, as they say. You know, I mean,
nobody guarantees us that evil's not going to slap back.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee. You fear not unless somebody's going to say something bad, or unless somebody's going to call me a name, or unless somebody might sue me. Well, of course people are going to do those sort of. Do you think the disciples or anything in the law book that people didn't have consequences for speaking the truth? Nowhere in law does it say, oh, and if you speak the law, you get a pass. No, it doesn't work that way.
You know, I was talking to a Christian priest in Armenia, an Orthodox priest at the Apostolic Church last week. And he said to me, you know what, think of it, we're in exile. I mean, and we're challenged and we have to rise to meet the challenge. And that is, I took that to heart. I found that very wise because this is not the end. This is a challenge. What do you think about that?
Todd, you have to have the knowledge, and then the real knowledge of the law. Then you have to have an understanding of what that means inside the matrix. We are living in a matrix of deceit and deception. This is a world constructed by man's rules. And then there's God's laws. Okay. So if you have the understanding of God's laws and the understanding of how you know your enemy, and you know that your enemy is going to piss fire and vinegar and scream and yell at the truth, it's almost like a vampire doesn't want to see the daylight, and the sunlight comes out, they scream, and they can't stand it, right? So liars and deception and evil does not like light and truth and law, okay? And so then the divine wisdom comes from not just knowing what's true, but understanding the forces at play in the world, and then having the wisdom to take action in spite of who your enemy is, or what how the system is rigged. Just because the system's rigged doesn't mean that, oh, well, my neighbor's an asshole, so I don't have to love my neighbor.
Well, it's also a numbers game, right? The more people that show courage and stand up, the bigger the chance of success. And getting to the point that we all want to get to is to understand, as you say, what's going on around us. And that's what we're about at this show, is to help people to understand, so they'll be the smartest in the room so they can make those right decisions. But I don't have you for much longer. I want to just shift a bit to some of the finance stuff.
Sure.
What's going on with the Federal Reserve? What do you see happening? Is it going to be transformed? I mean,
it's going to be shut down. It's going to be ended as far as its functionality that we've known it our whole lives. And this is an awakening process.
Mm-hmm.
This is a capacity to understand process. You got to slowly tease this out. The kind of the idea of, you can't just tell the people it's bad. You got to show them. You got to show Powell's contempt and disrespect for the economy, for the president. For the president says, let's lower rates, and Powell flexes and says, hey, I'm above you. In the corporate structure, the way this world has been set up, America's a corporation. I'm the banker's president of the corporation that owns this United States of America, Inc. And you can't tell me you can't fire me because I'm above you. Well, that's going to come to a shock to most people. Most people have no idea. Still, we say this all the time, Todd, but the Federal Reserve ain't federal, and there ain't no reserves.
Yeah.
And so
it's
if we got
your money,
if we have a Jerome Powell, who's the president of a fraudulent NGO, flipping off the president of the United States, don't you think that should start to wake people up?
Yeah, you would think.
You would think it would start to go, well, wait a minute. Why do we even need a Federal Reserve if we have a Treasury? What the hell is a Treasury for? Or what? Why do we need two banks? Why are they doing this kabuki theater thing? And yet everybody has to kiss the ring to this NGO operator that we apparently has helped us owe $37 trillion to the NGO.
And a point that most people don't understand, but even my kids understand it. They're like, Dad, if they don't have the money, they can't fight the wars.
Correct.
And I'm like, wow,
ding, 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 ding.
So once you get rid of that ability to just print and go attack, whatever, then that all changes.
And here's another impossible to answer question. If all they do is generate Federal Reserve notes, which are a debt instrument, and they give us debt instruments to go do our work, and then they take our debt instruments from us in taxes, how do you pay off $37 trillion of debt with debt that they steal from tax from us? You cannot pay off debt with debt. That's finance accounting 101. They can't just keep printing more money to make us go work in the treadmill 5 days a week and 70-hour work weeks and shrink our value down, and then somehow magically have debt erase debt. That doesn't even
inflate it away at the same time, so your purchasing power goes down.
The whole thing is mythology. The whole thing is mythology. And the guy that's bringing down the mythology in the Matrix is the man that's been in bankruptcy and business and the art of the deal and television and politics and, you name it, the world over. And there's your reason, core reason number one, and the last reason they hate this man and his supporters, because the folks that own the megaphones, the four major entities that own all of the broadcast media, have told to character assassinate that man and his followers because he's threatening their empire.
That is obviously what's going on. What do you think about this grand jury they're impaneling with Pam Bondi and the Russiagate stuff?
Well, I think that's probably one of the two last most difficult things that people are going to have to process, is that the magic politician we were told was the savior of the planet Earth was actually an agent of the entity that wanted to level the playing field. But they wanted to level the playing field by cutting America's head off and bring America down to the level of serf of everybody else, instead of all the other nations coming up to a declaration of independence and abundance and life, liberty, pursuit of happiness and property rights. And they don't want the world coming up where all the nations operate with the fundamental principles of our Declaration of Independence. They want to take America's head off, silence us, shut us up, shrink our population. So it's a lot easier for the Matrix to be controlled with all of the systems that they put in place, rather than all of the other nations coming up with peace and prosperity and abundance and sovereignty.
Yeah.
So what most people are going to have a very hard time coming to grips with was Obama was a deep state manufactured assassin to bring America down.
And everybody around him that was his third term we just saw under Biden. He was still there. What about the tariffs? How's that going in your mind? You're a finance guy. What do you think?
They're brilliant. They're amazing. We've had a 16% increase, in tariffs that came in last. It's one of, if you want to have your mind blown, go and find a clip that came out from CNN yesterday, and it almost acted like they've been Trump supporters for 50 years talking about no inflation, trade deficits, and tariff impact around the world, how good it is happening. We are almost at this point right now where we're going to trigger, and it's probably going to happen this month, Todd, where anyone making under $125,000 will never pay another penny in taxes. That's how much volume and revenue is coming in, and it's not creating inflation. We're getting new revenues. We're lowering the deficit. We are about to whack taxes, and it's not going to weaken our economy at all. So if you want to hate Trump, go ahead and keep hating Trump, but do it with more money in your pocket.
Sounds great. Trade deals. I'm just going down the list here of what I wrote down. I want to get your opinion on. India's squawking. EU is grudgingly gone along because they just got hammered by the art of the deal, power play. What else do you see happening on the trade front?
Well, it's hard. I mean, the trade front, basically you're having a bunch of people that have gotten a one-way ticket to paradise. They've gotten all the great deals. They've got to dump all their stuff on America, and they tariff us to death, and we get no tariffs when they dump all their stuff into America. And it's like they haven't been in the gym, for 35 years, and now they're having to work out again. Now they have to pay tariffs, and it's going to be reciprocal. If you want to charge us 15, we'll charge you 15. You've been charging us 35, and we've been getting 2 from you. I mean, who negotiated these deals?
Yeah.
Why do these deals even have to be cleaned up right now? Let's go back and look at the last 40 years and go, if this is what you call successful negotiations, I mean, how did we let this happen to us?
It was all a plan to, as you say, cut the head off America, essentially. I mean, it worked. It worked very well for a while.
It did.
What about the jobs numbers? What do you think?
Jobs numbers are going to be unbelievable. First of all, there was a lot of cooking of the numbers for sure. They had to adjust.
We've been saying that for years.
Right. They've been everything's a magic trick in the Matrix. Everything is about image, perception, emotions, emotional management. Keeping the lie and the tap dance going. It's all about funny money numbers and statistics and reports and who's the top song on the Billboard Top 100. It's all just kabuki theater. But at the end of the day, Todd, the amount of trillions of dollars that are coming onshore into America, the manufacturing commitments, the factory commitments, the jobs that are going to come. Texas is down 50,000 short electrical workers just to be able to put power centers up for AI, to create new data centers. I mean, the trades jobs are going to explode. Okay. The cost of living is going to, I'll give you an example, Todd. Here's one thing that people need to understand. During COVID, Blackstone came around and the hedge funds went out and bought every single family home they possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That drove the price up about, on average, across the nation, 37% for single family homes across the country on average. There's a law that's being passed right now that's going to make hedge funds get rid of individual single family properties.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, they have Blackstone. You remember last week we had the little incident where the guy went in the 33rd floor in New York City and killed the chief executive of Blackstone.
Yeah.
Remember that? So all kinds of stuff.
Who else? I got sent something else. Somebody else. There was another company in that building owned by Kissinger, and the people that were associated with that company were like John Brennan. Go down the list. So there was that whole thing is a little weird still.
A lot of deep state stuff going on there. A lot of deep state stuff.
Yeah.
But so let's combine. What if single family homes drop back down to 37% or 40%? and interest rates went from 4.5% to 1%, like Trump wants to cut them down by 3%.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the affordability of a single family home if the two biggest expenses in a person's life is the purchase of a home, and the second one is the financing of that home?
Yeah.
Most people can't pay cash for a house, so you buy the house and then you have to pay 30 years, spend 30 years paying your house off, right? So what if the house price comes down 37, 40% and the mortgage comes down 75%?
Yeah.
What does that do to affordability for folks that are struggling just to eat, this month? So
obviously a huge impact, along with all the other ancillary business that goes along with that. It looks like Trump is using this period of talking about getting rid of Powell, maybe just to expose him, and then he's going to let it run out for 8 months and just, bang on him for 8 months so that everybody sees actually what's going on.
Well, I think somewhere or the other, Todd, all of this illegitimate debt, the old axiom that fraud vitiates everything. Well, if the Federal Reserve's a fraud, and the debt's a fraud, and the income tax is a fraud, and the IRS is a fraud, you've got the Chevron doctrine that talks about how Congress can't outsource all of these laws into all these regulatory bodies. Why should Congress be able to outsource rules to the IRS that's domiciled in Puerto Rico as an NGO?
Yeah.
At what point does the Chevron doctrine apply to the IRS? At what point do we stop this kabuki theater? Why are we going to have a divided world where if you make less than 125, you don't have to pay any taxes, but anything above that you do? That would be a perverse, kind of a reverse incentive, right? It'd make people say, well, I'm going to get underneath 125 and just cruise.
Yeah.
That's not productive. That would be counterintuitive, but it would cause people to, go up to a certain level and then not have to pay. It's not going to be that way. It's going to be we're going to go back to a time when the tariffs funded everything pre-1913, and they had to have special committees to figure out how to give away all the extra wealth that we had because they didn't know how to spend it all. So that's where we're headed. We're headed to a tariff world where folks that want access to the most powerful market, the strongest consumer market in the world, they get to pay to sell to us instead of us having to pay taxes to buy their stuff.
It doesn't work anyway. It's cheap garbage. A lot of it anyway. What else, Rob? I'm through my list here. What else do you want to get out right now?
Well, I want everyone to understand, the end of the fiscal year 2025 ends, in about 55 days on September 30th. So fiscal year 2026, the official, if you will, kickoff to the America's 250th anniversary starts on October 1. And that's a new fiscal year. That's a new budget. Those are new laws. Before the congressional recess happens in August, there's going to be digital asset legislation, market structure legislation, stablecoin legislation, anti-CBDC legislation. New tariff deals are going to come in. I believe a case that is revolutionary to the world is the SEC and Ripple are going to both simultaneously drop their cases. It is going to end that, and it's going to allow 100% green light adoption of distributed ledger technology among the Fortune 1000 companies in America. And as America goes, so goes the rest of the world.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that all those rails were set up under the first Trump administration. It's why when you move money between banks, it happens instantaneously now instead of like 4 days.
Correct.
Right. So,
Correct.
I mean, this has been going on for some time to build all this.
And level playing field doesn't mean just level inside the United States. It means level in every nation on earth. Okay. And the fact of the matter that, there's an argument out there, Todd, that one of the reasons the SEC lawsuit was triggered was to insulate the RippleNet and the Ripple network and the distributed ledger technology from Biden, the AutoPen presidency, trying to put a CBDC in place.
Yeah.
They had to almost protect it in the incumbency of a lawsuit with everybody's eyes on every dot and comma and period and crossing of every T everything that ever happened had to happen in broad daylight where everybody was looking. And then when Trump got back in, he could do what he needed to do to make sure there's no such thing as a central bank digital currency.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Rob. We got a comment from TRC 025. The only thing you're missing with Rob on the theme song is a theme song from Rocky. So we're going to take a break here, but we're going to play this for a minute before we go.
I love it.
Rob, thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our CDM.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. Welcome back to the SCIF. Loves Rob's insight. We'll have him back on the show soon. Roger Stone was supposed to be with us today, but he had to reschedule. It looks like he'll be on tomorrow. We're always producing on the fly here, so thank you for your patience. And let me just highlight Nucleo Boost. We've talked about that. We're actually selling a lot of this, and it's good for CDM, and it's good for you, the person who looks at bringing up their nutrition. So if you go to cdmnutrition.com, you can find the capsules or the powder for Nucleo Boost. We put it in a smoothie. It's my favorite. You get fill all the potholes at the cellular level, has the bioallo to get it into your cells and to make sure you can fight disease and boost your immune system. That's the whole point. Is, as Dr. Waterman said in the advertisement, if our soil of our body doesn't have the right stuff in it, you start growing weeds, and that's what happens in our body. So, and I didn't realize that if the soil has all the nutrients, the weeds don't grow, which I never knew that, but he educated me on that fact. So check out Nucleo Boost. The subscription is cheaper, the monthly subscription. So check that out. And we're going to have Pete Blaber on second hour to talk about Ukraine SitRep, continuing war. We're getting to the point where either we're going to have a major global conflict or we're going to end the war. So we're pouring on the water, the gas to continue the push to end the conflict. But today is August 5th, I'm your host, L Todd Wood. This is your mission brief. Israel wants Gaza and all of it, and they want Hamas destroyed. We're going to talk about that in the second hour. Financial revolution inbound. Rob has highlighted that, and that's a story and a theme we're going to stay on as we go forward. Ukraine war keeps killing thousands and thousands and thousands a month. This is unacceptable. It's depopulation. It's anti-human. It's satanic. It's evil. It needs to stop. That's been one of our big themes, and we're going to continue on that theme. I'll be down in Maryland to give another speech soon to a Republican event down there, and we're going to talk about Ukraine, especially if it's still going on. The U.S. wants a moon base. This is kind of new, but it's not new if you've been reading a lot of stuff. I was reading some, actually William Cooper's book the other day, Upon a Pale Horse, and he talks about this. It's really fascinating. A lot of people saw this stuff happening really early. And the Seven Mountains Mandate, this is a new one that kind of took me by surprise. The Georgia Record put out, our paper in Georgia, an interesting look at the corruption in Georgia and where it's coming from. It may not be what you think. So we're going to take another break because we didn't take one hardly at all with Rob. We'll be right back, and we'll talk more about all those subjects, and we'll have Ukraine SitRep, so stay with us.
Watching my friends gain more and more weight, and then eventually I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke, I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition-specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mixed it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this, you take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
We're slogging over Africa. Foot, slogging over Africa. Boot, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I sat down with Pete Blaber yesterday. We pre-taped another Ukraine SitRep because there's so much going on there. So we're going to play that now, and then we'll go into some of the other stories after that. But here is Pete. 1 second. We are back with our good friend of the show, Pete Blaber, former Elite Special Operations Commander. Pete, thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to be here, Todd.
So, a lot to talk about. There is a deadline. Trump has shrunk the time for when, I guess, massive sanctions, in his words, are going to be put on Russia. what we don't know really what those are going to be. We assume it's some type of sanctions against trading partners of Russia, maybe their oil exports or whatever, trying to shut off the cash flow for the war. And even Trump said that's probably not going to work. So what's the point of doing it? But, we've said all along that Trump holds the power to end this war today, just by shutting off the arms flow to Ukraine and said, make a deal. But that's not happening. Instead, we're getting nuclear threats. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take it where you want to go.
Yeah, thanks. So, first is just the reality of the situation on the ground. Pavlovsk is, partially controlled right now by Russia. It's surrounded on three sides. That's their biggest. Hold on, someone. I think that's me. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So, they're surrounded on three sides. They've also lost serious territory in the south. And, the Russians continue to move. Same casualty figures we've been talking about, real casualty figures. Ukraine's losing around 20,000 soldiers a month. Russia, who's very open about it, is between 2.5 and 5,000 is the estimate for the last couple months, which have been intense months. Mm-hmm. So, despite those clues, those reality clues, I think you have the article. The administration just put out a threatening tweet that said, the war must end. Do you have that to put up with the numbers?
I have this article, so let me just scroll through it here. It's a lot of unnecessary death. He talks about 8,000 soldiers from January 1, which is absurd for Ukraine, and 112,000 for Russia. So
right. So basically, 11 to 12 times the losses, which, you wonder, first off, that makes no sense. So you're threatening Russia, who's losing 11 times as many people, that they need to stop the war because of the killing. And we're not threatening Ukraine, or we're not saying the same thing to Ukraine. And, it's pretty obvious that it makes no sense for Russia to just do a random ceasefire, which is stop shooting. They're not a peace negotiation, because they're so far from peace negotiations based on Zelensky and his words. He just said 2 days ago that, Russia and Putin need to be destroyed. So, this is also against a backdrop of what we're learning day by day about the Russiagate hoax. Tulsi Gabbard has, released documents that paint an irrefutable picture about what happened. There's no longer any doubts. We're not talking circumstantial evidence. We're talking physical evidence of what they were saying, what they were planning, and what they were doing. So, Russiagate was a massive hoax, but what we're living through is Russiagate Part 2. And what, President Trump, I am just supposing is not figured out yet, is that Russiagate 1 wasn't just limited to taking down Trump. It was also created to engender animosity toward Russia, which would allow the deep state to wage war with Russia and take over the natural resources, as we've talked about in past episodes, that Ukraine is so rich in, and that would make the EU a verifiable mega economy, because they'd be self-sufficient on energy and agriculture. So, we're living through Russia hoax Part 2. This is a hoax. And, it needs to be said, we're fortunate that Mr. Putin and, Lavrov have put up with the psychotic nonsense that's coming out out of DC at this point. We talked last week about Kellogg, who is still in place, who is still advising the president on how to end the war, while he's involved with a company whose profit and success depends on the war continuing. It makes no sense. And then, the idea that Putin seeks to conquer Western Europe is as preposterous as it was that Russia hacked the 2016 election to enable Donald Trump to win. So once again, the great irony is the Ukraine war was created by the Obama and Biden administrations, and with cooperation from the neocon crazies in our State Department and our intel agencies. And of course, we now know that, Bolton and others were working to keep the war going during President Trump's first term. So, in addition to that, they continue to use NATO as an instrument to break up Russia. And this deal where they're just going to pay us for the weapons to give to Ukraine, I can't figure that one out at all. That's like a shell game. We're still giving weapons to Ukraine, and we're still prolonging the war and the killing. And again, Ukraine is losing not just a generation, but the next generation, and they're losing any ability to ever get back up on their feet as a competent economy.
I think that's part of the goal. I think that's part of the goal. I mean, there's multiple agendas here. It's kind of like you see people pushing a political or geopolitical agenda, but they're also getting rich at the same time. I mean, that's been a pattern all over the election fraud, everything. We'll get rich, we'll sell these machines, and at the same time, we get all this power. That's going on in Ukraine, and I think there's multiple agendas. You mentioned Russia, but I think it's an agenda to take over the resources of the country, as you said, and that means getting rid of the people. So I think that's part of what's happening here, in my opinion.
Yeah, and even you've said that before, and when you hear that, again, your first reaction is no one would ever do that. No one would ever do such a thing. Yet now, along with the knowledge that is confirming what a farce the Russia gate was and the Russia hoax was, we're also learning that the mass migration plan in not just Europe, but was attempted by the Biden administration with open borders in the U.S., was nothing more than an attempt to dilute the voting bloc in each country to such an extent that populists could never win again. And you and I have been all over Europe, so it was hard for me to believe Merkel would do that to Germany, especially Germany, because they're so xenophobic, they're so nationalistic, but she did. And the same thing happened in Britain and France. And of course, the Biden administration tried to do it here, which President Trump is, working feverishly to reverse. So, this whole thing that the force, losing all of their men and their manpower, which can be replaced by immigrants, and the vision would be that Ukraine would be this integral part of the EU, is totally believable. And it's the only thing you can come up with to make sense of what they've done. So, again, it's hard to understand how President Trump is falling for this, because he's been so good at pressure testing things along the way on every other topic. But I really believe, as we've talked about before, he's just surrounded by individuals who are 100% on that neocon side of keeping the war going and not caring one iota about Ukraine or the Ukrainian people.
Well, it's almost like a switch was flipped about 6 weeks ago. You know, like the shift was noticeable, and it went from Zelensky needs to stop this and end the war to the exact opposite of that. So, and it just seems like you know, the people who are pushing this agenda have decided, okay, the mask comes off and we just by force get what we want. I mean, that kind of seems like where we're at to me.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, we've held out hope that President Trump was, again, just trying to tiptoe around this stigma, you know, that he's in bed with Russia. But if he was, he doesn't need to do that anymore. It's pretty obvious that, you know, now everyone knows, including Democrats, what a complete farce that was. So, you know, why are we continuing to do this? The Zelensky corruption that's been exposed of him and his partner, you know, billions of dollars, and you knew it was serious when the EU cut off funding for that short period before he reversed his edict on his anti-corruption organization, which again is a two-edged sword, because that organization is simply the arm of the EU and the US that enables them to affect Ukrainian policy.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to see it. It's more like a hammer that he was trying to remove. And they said no.
But he was caught, and you know, that just remains obvious. You still don't see anything going on in Ukraine. You know, you've never seen Zelensky interacting at a hospital with the wounded and amputees and incredibly disfigured soldiers from burns and explosions. Ukraine is, all their hospitals are maxed out, their rehab centers, you know, and men and their families are still fighting for, you know, some sort of financial support so they can continue to live their lives. And none of that is happening. So, you know, all these clues are there. They're not, again, you know, like Russia Hoax One, they're not circumstantial, they're physical. And all you got to do is look, put it together, and it all makes sense. You know,
you're right. You know, I've talked to a lot of people involved in the medical field in Ukraine recently, and they're hurting. They need people. They're starting to, you know, press anyone with any kind of medical experience. They're like, you're automatically drafted. You don't even have a choice. Even if you don't get the paper in the mail, you're part of the military now. So report here. So that's kind of
what's look how close then that is, Todd. We're not hearing about that. Why is the press not, you know, blasting that all over? Why not? Why isn't every doctor, and there's plenty of you know, doctors who would take leave of absence and go over there and do tours to help out, emergency room physicians. You know, a fund could start up to help guys with, you know, who need prosthetic legs and arms. And there's a lot of those. You and I have seen that, again, hidden from the West by Western media. But it just shows you that their primary overriding mission is to hide all this so they can keep the war going. And it's a horrible humanitarian crime, you know, against the people of Ukraine and those soldiers who are patriots. They went to fight a war based on a bunch of you know, delusional and manufactured scenarios that were not true. So, you know, the Ukrainian soldiers are just victims of the propaganda, just like Trump and just like the rest of the West
I
are.
agree. And, you know, you've seen that war after war in the West, right? I mean, what struck me recently is the Ukrainian what's going on there, the way they're conducting all of this is just very similar to like the U.S. going to war, from the uniforms to the structure of the military to the, the VA, all the what got me is the cemeteries, and that was all, there was a lot of money that went into that. That was like a theatrical event, building all those cemeteries with all the flags. It's obviously some kind of, as you said, a patriotic, dog whistle to the population to get them behind this conflict. But we don't see anything in the news. They don't care about the people of Ukraine. You mentioned doctors. They don't care. They just want, as you said, the war to keep going.
Yeah, it's horrific. And again, if I could talk to President Trump, I'd bottom line up front, you're being duped by your advisors.
Yes.
Look at all the physical clues that tell you what's really going on over there. And then, we started out, I think, in a healthy, common sense approach. We're not taking sides, but that is, has fallen by the wayside. We were attacking Russia, which, is insane. They have legitimate concerns. And, again, a simple scenario that to allow people in the United States to understand Russia's point of view. If China had overthrown a duly elected government in Mexico or Canada in 2014 and installed an anti-U.S., not just an anti-U.S. government, but a government who was committed to destroying the United States, and then over the next 7 years began lobbing artillery into Texas and New Mexico and killing 14,000 Americans. If we launched forces into Mexico or into Canada, would we be the invaders? Would we be the bad guys in this? No, it's a liberation. And that's the fact of what happened in the Ukraine war. Yet, again, as I mentioned before, Putin's shown amazing patience. Even in 2022, the Russians were serious about the Minsk Accords. And if they had been, just imagine if Ukraine had some common sense and took those accords signed on the bottom line, which they canceled at the last minute. But think if they had done that, they'd still have all their provinces except Crimea. And those provinces, all they had to do was give them autonomy and representation in the government, which everyone is supposed to have according to the UN Article 1 of the UN Human Rights Charter. So none of this makes sense. Now trying to make Russia into the bad guys makes even less sense.
Well, it's getting scary, Pete. I mean, you mentioned the attacking Russia. I mean, people may not have seen that. I mean, we're talking nuclear war now. I mean, Trump's like, I'm going to position nuclear submarines that carry, dozens of nuclear MIRV missiles. So, that's absurd in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I read today, getting information that there's like some missile or nuclear tests possible in Russia this week, or they're cording off airspace. So I mean, this thing's heating up, man. It's not good.
Yeah. Well, they have hypersonic missiles that we can't defend against. To me, the movement of the submarine, the indicator I got from that is, wow, this shows he's listening to the Hodges, the Kellogg's, the Keens. Crazy that this is being led by all these former, Department of Defense military general officers. But you remember when we played that tape of Hodges, that's what he was saying. Russia's bluffing. We need to be firing cruise missiles into Moscow. We need to take out all their oil facilities. These guys are delusional. And what you're bringing up about how dangerous it is, just like everything else, don't assume that all parties are rational decision makers. It's very easy to be duped or through bureaucratic inconsistencies get the wrong information and the wrong signals. Something like when you start getting into this, we're going to move nuclear submarines over there. We can defeat you with nuclear weapons, i.e. Lindsey Graham. You bring yourself into this dangerous red zone where any mistake or miscalculation could lead to nuclear war and destruction of the human population on the planet. So like you said, it's not funny anymore. It's not even like, wow, he's being duped. This is as serious of a crime as Russia Hoax Part 1, which started the war, enabled Biden to get in, enabled the Obama-Biden war in Ukraine to continue. But this is just as serious, and we have to wake up. We're living in Russia Hoax Part 2. Everything they're saying is what they're doing, and we need to stop it.
Well, it reminds me, the Dr. Strangelove. I mean, with, on the going down on the nuke. It's like they have that kind of like irrational, just psychotic view of what's going on, and maybe they want nuclear war. I don't know.
Yeah, you just listen to in next episode. Let's put a montage together of Keene and Kellogg and Lindsey Graham and the rest of them. They're on the mainstream news, including Fox News now, saying, hey, this moving that sub was the right thing to do. We need to, they'll back down. We got this. We're more powerful. And again, on every level, that's just false. And we don't have the military that could fight any kind of war right now. Europe, it's not even worth talking about it because, even Great Britain, I believe, has only got 1 or 2 combat-ready brigades in the whole country. And then you add in lessons learned and this new form of warfare, which you have to be, a realist, a rock-ribbed realist enough to say Russia is the most formidable military right now on the planet. And under your breath, you should be saying, we don't want to do anything that could get into a confrontation with Russia. But again, Russia's shown no indications. They've not verbalized. They've not done any mass behaviors that would indicate, even in the most extreme contingency planning, that they have their eyes on invading Europe. But they keep repeating that line, and it's Russia Hoax Part 2.
Putin said something today, which I saw that I was struck by Trump saying we're going to deploy 2 submarines. I mean, I would hope that we always have, nuclear triad submarines deployed in the right spot. So I thought that was almost comical the way Trump said that. And then Putin said that today. He's like, they're always deployed. What do you mean? So
exactly. It goes back to these advisors telling them, just laughing. Russia, remember Hodges laughing at Lavrov. Who's he to say that Ukraine can't have neo-Nazis? Who's he to say NATO can't be on their border? You just scratch your head when you listen to them. They're living in an alternate reality and just exposing themselves as individuals who don't understand either nature or human nature. Or history.
I think it's worse than that. I think they're serving some other master, but I don't quite have my finger on it. But I can't believe they're that incompetent. It's just intentional. It's intentional. There's another article I want to bring up that Russia captured some active duty NATO officers. I guess a couple Brit officers and a MI6 individual. Do you know anything more about that?
Yeah, I've got my feelers out. I heard they really did capture individuals, whether those are when you hear names and ranks of the individuals, it gives it some credibility. Why did Britain not come out the day after and just show those three guys on FaceTime or Zoom or something else. Then I heard, and again, I have my feelers out. My guys are trying to confirm this. Then I heard that the excuse was these guys were war tourists. They were, there to see the history or whatever was happening. And that's as farcical as can be, because this is an active duty combat zone. You don't go as a war tourist, to a country where you can get hit in the head with a cruise missile or a drone missile. So, what we do know is if you go back to, the two trains that were taken out, the bridges during the truck drone raid on Russian nuclear airfields, the C4 was found, and it was C4 that Russia knew where it came from. It came from Great Britain. And we also know that both the SAS and SBS are on the ground. When the U.S. pulled back, which was happening from 22 onward, but happened drastically, pull every active duty military individual off of the ground in Ukraine in 24 when Trump won. The MI6 took over the war, and the MI6 is the CIA and MI6 were running the war from 14 on. The MI6 now is in the lead because they have the operational guys on the ground. We do know, again, that SBS and SAS soldiers are on the ground right now in Ukraine, and without any more information, my supposition would be that those individuals captured were either SBS or SAS officers who were performing some kind of command and control, act on the ground, down in the south, right on the edge of the Black Sea, feeling they were totally safe, and Russia figured it out.
They raided this facility, right?
Yeah, it only took 15 minutes, so Russia knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yep. And if you remember in our very first podcast, I said, never underestimate Russia's EW signal intelligence capability. They've always been the world leaders through the whole Cold War.
They knew where they were.
Exactly. They were probably broadcasting away, probably on their cell phones.
Americans and Brits, I guess, they're horrible. They love to just talk in the open. It's from Vietnam on. The Viet Cong used to sit outside the bases and just listen to the maintenance guys on their bricks when the F-4s were getting ready to go, and they knew an airstrike was coming. So, it's pathetic. I used to get so pissed off at ComSec in the Air Force, but, or with it was better at JSOC. But
yeah,
and I just for our audience, let me just say SAS, Special Air Service, SBS, Special Boat Service, just so they know that's the British Special Forces. But go ahead.
The SBS is their SEALs, and they have proponency over the littoral, anywhere 50 miles of the Black Sea, is SBS territory. So they were there more than likely advising the Ukrainian Navy and Marines, and it looks like they got caught. If it turns out to be what we think it was, every Brit on the ground needs to really think hard, and Starmer and his mod need to think really hard about the implications, because Russia has every right to try them, to hold them as long as they want to hold them, and to target every other Brit and naval or NATO officer who's on the ground. And they shouldn't be on the ground.
It makes London a target, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I don't think
war against Russia.
Yeah, Starmer's working for somebody else. I don't think they care about the UK at all. But I've also read that I guess these were active duty uniformed, but I think Putin said he would execute any mercenaries that got caught, right? I think that was what came out a year ago. Maybe it hasn't.
I haven't heard that, but
yeah,
a number of them been killed. I heard that one of my guys told me that some of the best fighters now are the Colombians because they're fighting as units, the mercenaries, and there's no holistic units left in Ukraine other than their special ops guys. But all the units have been decimated to such an extent that, with new recruits, unmotivated, injured personnel, most units are at 60% in the Ukrainian military, 60% manning, meaning. And so, they're not fighting effectively, and they have no faith in their command. We've talked about that before. They don't take good care of their people. The guys who started fighting in 22 are still fighting in 25 and have no sign of coming home, no Eros Day to look forward to. So you can just tell the writing's on the wall. It's going to be over with, if not in weeks, then in months for sure.
There's a lot of talk of a false flag now to get more different forces involved in this conflict. Trump just needs to end it. I mean, I would like him to go back to his original instincts, and I don't know what pressures are being put on him right now, but something is happening and it's not good. So we want to call it out. Pete, anything else you want to get out?
Nope, I'm good, Todd.
All right, well, we'll see you next week on Ukraine SitRep. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Take care.
The bird flu is circulating. We're getting more and more press, more fear mongering, more warnings about this. First, let's start with that. What say you on?
Well, what I say is it specifically is not circulating. It's in animals. There's one human, maybe two transmissions, no human-to-human transmission. And stand by, everybody. If there is some sort of sudden human-to-human transmission, you should immediately be suspicious that gain of function was involved with that. Just the fact that they're taking an animal virus and going nuts on it in the press and talking about it all the time, that to me leads me to believe that they have concerns that somebody is doing something with that virus, because this would not happen naturally, in my opinion.
Our world is changing rapidly. Many crucial systems we depend upon are collapsing. And the most important system that is failing is the food supply.
Mr. President, this Council is more than aware of the multiple challenges and threats the world is facing today. But the threat of famine, people starving slowly to death, must be a red line.
These food prices are going to keep going up and up, and they're going to keep feeding excuse after excuse, narrative after narrative.
Yeah,
you're going to have to get off that treadmill and start getting more autonomous with your own food growing.
You want to make sure that you can eat, because frankly, food is the biggest issue as we are going through these transitions.
But amidst the chaos, there is a path to resilience. Marjorie Wildcraft is the female leader of the survival and preparedness movement. Marjorie has taught millions of people how to grow an abundance of food in a grid-down situation, even if you have no experience, are older, or out of shape.
I've spent decades finding the fastest, easiest, and funnest ways for the average person to be able to grow a lot of food. I've created a step-by-step process that's so simple that even kids to elders have been using it in order to grow a lot of their own food. And you can too, even if you have no experience, you're older, or you're out of shape.
Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Get started today.
Welcome back to the SCIF. We always love having Pete Blaber on because he's got people on the ground in Ukraine, as we do, and we like to bring you real reporting from the region. You're not going to get that anywhere else. CDM is the only spot. That's just a fact, and we're going to continue to broaden our horizon and our reporting in the Middle East, especially on the Christian persecution. This is my first novel, Currency. Just a couple comments on the back. Todd Wood's economic thriller Currency spans 3 centuries and includes tales of pirates and America's early leaders. Currency kept me curious until the very end. A unique page turner. From Bill Gertz, senior editor of the Washington Free Beacon, now with the Washington Times. This is available anywhere. You can get free copies at historyofbooks.com, the publisher. The next several books in the series will be out soon, and it's just a great page turner, great beach book, great gift for what's coming up in the fall, Christmas, etc. If you have somebody who has everything, this is a great gift. So check out Currency at historyofbooks.com. I want to go through a few stories before we end the show here. One of them, let me just bring this up. The 7 Mountains Mandate in Georgia. There was a weird situation where the head of the Georgia GOP, Josh McCoon, and his wife did a video about the 7 mountains and including 7 things they wanted to fix in the GOP. And they did none of it. And it was really confusing to a lot of people as to what was actually going on. But if you go into this article, and you can link to the whole article to Hank Sullivan's work, just fantastic work on the 7 Mountains movement, which I never knew anything about. And I guess it's wrapped up with this Ponzi scheme, $140 million Ponzi scheme with the Frost family in Georgia, who were ripping off conservatives to try to put a new political apparatus in power based on some kind of fundamentalist religious beliefs. So this is a really interesting article. Check it out, the Georgia Record, georgiarecord.com, our article in Georgia. The Road to Perdition, the Frost family, Josh McCoon, and the 7 Mountain movement. And who else has talked about 7 Mountains? Charlie Kirk and others. It's really interesting. So what's going on behind the scenes? We're continuing to peel back the onion here and find out what's happening. So check that out. It's one of the most interesting articles we've had out in a long time. NASA director wants a moon landing, or a nuclear reactor on the moon, I should say, which includes moon landing and a moon base and all this. There's a big push to go back to the moon, and the Trump administration is on board. So we'll see where this goes, but they made it a point to fast track a nuclear reactor on the moon in the race with China and Russia. Another article, I found this fascinating last night on Tucker, the Oklahoma City bombing truth. Just an amazing interview. If you have some time, it's about an hour and a half. But her name is Margaret Roberts, who's done a lot of reporting on the Oklahoma City bombing. I knew none of this. It was all a hoax. All the reporting was a hoax. So, and then they executed the guy without all the real people behind it to be known. Pretty evil. And I mean, he was involved in it, obviously, and did the bombing, but there's a lot more that didn't get held accountable. And that's exactly what we have right now. And one of the points on the interview was that if you don't take care of these things, they happen again, like 9/11, like January 6th, where government involved operations against the American people happen. So fascinating. Check that out. It's well worth your time. Tucker's doing some good work. Another article on our Israeli site, Zionism.com, TSIONIZM.com, where we talk about the Zionist movement. Israel wants to fully occupy Gaza militarily and politically, and it looks like they've made a decision to do that and get rid, and that's the way they're going to try and get the hostages released. We're going to continue to report on this. This is really all we need to do is continue to bring you good information, and we've got people on the ground in Israel, as you've seen, and we'll continue to bring as much information on this story because it's not going away, and that war is not ending anytime soon. Just a lot happening, guys. We try to filter through all of it. We try to get you what you need to know to be the smartest in the room. I mean, there literally is just so much information coming out right now that it's hard to stay on top of. But we're doing the best we can, and I think we do a good job. And we're going to be having more reporting. As I said, the team is going to Beirut in the near future, and we'll be doing more reporting on Christians being slaughtered in that region of the world. And no peep from the White House, no peep from anywhere. It's okay. Christianity is the one religion you can hate, you can kill, and nobody cares. So with that, we'll see you back again on the SCIF tomorrow, 10 to noon. We have Roger Stone tomorrow. He's confirmed, and other guests. I think you'll really enjoy it. So see you back tomorrow. Check out our podcast. Check out cdm.press. We need the traffic. Please make an effort, several times a day, just to go through cdm.press and check out what we have on the table. So thank you for that. We'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern.